what are people, again, this is not a uncommon comment. This is definitely something that's picked up lately since we had the January runs up and down and all this stuff. And then now it's been, like we talked about earlier, the weekly red weekly candles and all that stuff. What are people just not getting about PulseChain? Like what is getting this, where is the negative energy? Why is it getting redirected into like, don't know what to do? This thing is obviously over. Like, how do you guys think? How do you not be distracted, or what do you think about that?
It's not, go ahead, Charlie. Go ahead.
But yeah, I think we're gonna have two very different kind of angles on this. But like, I think it's due to impatience overall, right? And like people are like, well, I'm down, or I'm sideways, or I'm a little up since the last few years. So like, I want to give up and I want to put it into Ethereum or something that's a little bit more predictable. That means maybe you did sacrifice a little bit too much. Take whatever that percentage is off the portfolio, go and put it in something else in the market. Good, relieve yourself a little bit. But why did you get into this space in the first place, right? You have to have the courage of conviction. And if you are not really all that convicted in the first place in the asset that you decided to get into during the sacrifice phase, then yeah, you kind of in a way deserve to get shaken out. Not that you truly do, but that that's what the market does, right?
Right.
So I'd look at it that way. But then I'd also say just any asset that's going to do the number of X's that we want with PulseChain, that we saw with Hex, that we're going to see with PulseX as well. You do need like a concentrated amount of liquidity from people who are holders, right? And so the times that we've seen the biggest shakeouts were in terms of sentiment and in terms of where everybody was feeling like this was the first one, I think, in my opinion, like where people were the most bearish was end of November, beginning of December last year, at which, when liquid loans came out, people were like, oh yeah, all these SACs, they're not doing shit. And, people were very bummed out about that. And so I was thinking about it over December around the holidays. I'm like, okay, I got to buy more. Right. And then from January, we went up. And at this point as well, I kind of feel like we're at that. April is November, May is December, right? And then maybe June is January, where we start going up significantly again. So kind of same sentiment that I'm feeling here from these types of comments, which, is totally understandable. And people who might be in their first cycle and maybe weren't there at the beginning of days of Hex, right? They can feel disillusioned. But yeah, I would say, go back to why you got in this thing in the first place. And it was just like, because everybody else was doing it, then yeah, probably not the right community.
Yeah, I'll go in a different angle, obviously, which is basically it's just out of envy, really. I mean, that's what's happening right now. I mean, people look at Solana, they look at Phantom, they look at AVAX, they look at other things, and they've seen that those things are up in their charts and stuff, and they're moving. But I mean, relatively speaking, we're still multiple X's. It's just like expectations were set extremely high. Not by Richard himself, but more like by the community of getting really crazy. And I would say even it's mostly from the PulseX SAC where people were acting pretty crazy and saying crazy things. I remember a couple of people on Twitter saying they maxed out credit cards. And I was like, God damn. Wow. No, but it was true. I mean, that's what people did. I mean, no one told them to do that. But, this is why at the beginning of my show, I have at the end of the day, you push the green, you push the red button. You got to be responsible for the decisions you do, but obviously that isn't a characteristic of some people in the crypto space. It's something that me and Charlie impart on all our students and stuff through the red pill. But we're the red pill of finance. We don't push. You don't have to get into the red pill, but we like to teach certain good qualities of the red pill that are really great for life overall and stuff like that. And that's
it boils down to what is the metaphor. The metaphor is going to the truth, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Right. And you just need to kind of understand, like, markets work like this, and people are going to get shaken out, but people are going to make the stupid decisions. But yeah.
And right now we're getting what every other one's not running right now. What is every other one plagued with? Meme coins. What is PulseChain going through? We're like the last ones to get the meme coin run, and we got the meme coin run. Like 9inch is doing really well. Ben just launched. The ecosystem is doing fantastic. It's just and then what do you want to know? One of the reasons why we've had 8 weekly candles of red is because people have been selling 8 weeks of their main holdings into shit coins. That's what's happening, but that's normal. Look, you can actually look at other ones. The main difference is that we don't have an exchange listings where people, casual buyers, can just hold up the price of the token. So since we're a DeFi only coin, it takes a lot more steps to get into PulseChain. So then when the DeFi users are then selling their DeFi coins to buy DeFi shit coins, that affects the DeFi coin, right? Where like when you have, if we had a Coinbase listing, new people coming to the ecosystem, hey, just get on Coinbase. Okay, I'll hold some PulseChain. That would hold the price up, and then the meme coins would still run, and people would feel a little better.
Yeah, and also you're going to have, if you have something listed on a centralized exchange, usually you're going to pay for a listing to some extent, and if you're going to do that, then you're also going to pay market makers also to hold up the price during dumps, which you're not going to have as much in DeFi.
Yeah, look up Jump Capital. Look up Jump Capital. They're the biggest market maker in this game right now.
Oh. But and the people too. I mean, there's plenty of people who just sold their core coins to get into whatever else for the narratives that are happening and otherwise. But the people who have left completely, they would just exit the ecosystem. What did they have in common? Like what would just make people just no, I'm just going to go somewhere else?
Well, I would say, like Miguel mentioned earlier, maybe over leveraged in either allocation to the coin or in, mainly that. Like, and it could be over allocation in actual leverage, or just they took too much out of their own personal savings for that, because hey, it's the next 100x moonshot. It's going to happen tomorrow.
I mean, I especially when I remember this, when I was coming up in the crypto space, that sometimes I over DCA'd. It happens. And then I'm like, something happens in the real life because I'm living on a razor's edge because I'm trying to ape as much freaking capital as possible in order to leverage this to change my life, which it did, right? But there's times where I'm like, dang it, I have to sell a portion of my position because something happened, a car broke, or I need equipment or something. Just life happens. But it kind of is what it is. You have some people where they basically didn't DCA at all at the bottom, and or just selling off positions because like they're trying to make it back on other coins. If you were DCAing, if you lowered your cost, I mean, for anyone who's sacked for PulseChain is pretty much we're in profit. I mean, basically in the entire time, especially if you're a part of a SAC group or a top 20 SAC group or whatever, you're still in profit right now. But if a person who just solo SAC by themselves, they're down 30%.
Well, there's a lot of people who's sacked luck.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah. I was thinking of two, just people who sacked. A lot of people sacked, like $1,000, just smaller amounts relative to probably what they have in crypto. They waited a while. PulseChain came out, and then you think a lot of them bought more before we had the opportunity to buy all the dips, and that's why it's like, oh man, I was so excited this thing came out. I turned a bunch of more ETH or whatever into it, and now I just saw it go down instead of waiting and then buying the dips. Do you think some people are in that kind of situation where it's like they got kind of double hammered? I'm like, crap, I was so excited. I thought this was going to work out.
Yeah. People FOMO'd. People definitely FOMO'd. I mean, we told our guys if you wanted to buy some off when it just launches, but if it goes God candle, green candles, you don't buy green candles. So that's just kind of what it is there. But like the prices. I mean, that's what happened because once we got above SAC rate. I mean, there's a reason the price got to 340. It wasn't the guys buying at 10 or at 100. There's people buying on the way up, right? So that's obviously what happened, and there was a bunch of pent up demand because people wanted that to happen, right? But it's kind of due for the course because we launched in a bear run. We launched in the middle of the bear run, and I actually think that's over. I mean, we're going to look back and probably be like that was pretty cool, but it's been a bumpy ride, obviously, because no matter what, any coin, if you look at the price charts of most coins that launched during that time or in 2022, it's terrible. It's like, but we're off the bottoms now, I mean, even right now on PulseX, we're still up 3x from the bottom. I think PulseChain, we're up like 2.5 and some change X from the bottom, give or take. So we're still doing pretty well on that front. I mean, you could be Cardano and be up like 20% or 50% from the bottom. You could be XRP and be at neutral, no gains at all.